Hopefully, just switch to some other headphones, which will mean I can actually hear you properly, and I won't be
There we go. Oh,
whole of the
there's
garden
Duncan.
here.
Don't worry. We're recording now. So, hi guys. We are just coming. We're just literally saying we are. This is the last Inside Publishing for 2025, and who knows what will happen in 2026? Exciting times. Hopefully, it's actually at the end of the year of the snake. So, in the book I've just written, there's a thing about horoscopes and stuff. And one of the things I discovered was that the cycles of these things go in lots of 9 years. So the year of the snake has just finished, and it's the time to shed, literally like a snake, shed skins, and it's a time of change. So when you get to the end of the 9 years, it's so going into 2026 is going to be like a new time for everybody. Didn't explain that very well. But anyway, so quick preamble into 2026. So how was 2025, Simon? How's publishing at the moment?
Publishing's great. I mean, I think it's a mixture between delusional and ever optimistic, which is a great thing.
Oh, we're losing your sound. Hang on, it's gone. Whatever you did then. It was all fine for a second and now it's gone. Just speak to me again. Yeah, it's gone. Tech. This is the joys.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, now we can. Perfect. Perfect now.
Yeah, okay. I've had to switch to the Mac. Anyway, yeah, I was saying I think publishing is. I mean, last night I went to Kingston to the MA course there in publishing, and there's a room full of 50 kind of fresh-faced, optimistic people very keen to go into publishing. And I think that's great because I think anyone who's sort of cynical about publishing and about everything that we do should go into that kind of room because you think nobody's in that room because they think this is going to be a high paid profession.
No.
Doing it because they genuinely think that they've got something to offer and that they'd like to work with creative people. So that's really, I think that's incredibly encouraging. Um, I mean, I do, you do wonder whether there are enough jobs in publishing to absorb all of the graduates from everywhere. But I was asked some really good questions last night, and it was an interesting. I mean, look, it wasn't very diverse. There were probably three boys in the room.
Oh goodness, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know where all the boys are, what room I could have gone into last night where there were 47 men and three women. No
Maybe they
idea.
maybe they're all doing engineering.
Maybe they're all doing app developing, or maybe they're not, or maybe
Yeah.
that's with the sexes. I've no idea.
Well,
But
I don't know. It's but it also it roots right back to when kids are small, doesn't it? And that whole, I mean, they're pushing girls into science now, but creative careers for men aren't really. I mean, unless they're going to do law or they're going to do something else along those lines, which would be more sort of or
yeah,
history. I know a lot of people that did history, but it is interesting that you see that on the publishing side, and that perhaps it's not viewed as a career by men coming through the
yeah,
labs. But I think it's a systematic thing that goes right back to uh, the way they're brought up in school. Sorry, Duncan, we're not late. We're not. You're not late. We're late. So don't worry. You've only missed 30 seconds. And just saying that she has literally signed a contract yesterday for a home she lived in for nearly 40 years, and it's massive changes this year. Yeah. So literally, it's that you're on the cusp, Ita. I'm sure you know all about that. But yeah, no, it is interesting. So yeah. So I think. Yeah, well, where will they be absorbed into the system? But I think the
yeah,
system's growing. So a really interesting thing there about, oh, where was it? It's about independent publishing and how independent publishers need to be supported. Could have been, I think it was the House of Commons when we were there the other day, and talking about. I thought it was really interesting because they do support diverse voices. That's something the big six don't, or big five don't do so much. And it was actually literally, God, how long have I been doing this? The first time I actually thought, oh, that's the real role for the independent publisher, isn't it? That they can do smaller print runs and support different voices. And it's actually a really important cultural role. I think that's the way I hadn't thought about it from
yeah.
that
It is,
perspective
but I
before.
mean, I think they've still got to make money, haven't they? And I think
Well, they
that's
do, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, a lot of them are Arts Council supported, aren't they? Some of the independent ones. And I agree, they still have to make money, but I think it's on a smaller scale. But it's just, it was very interesting. I thought it was a very interesting point that They do. They're the ones that do support the books that are a bit different and the diverse
Yeah,
voices
I
and
mean, One
stuff.
World we've talked about a lot, and
Mm,
very good. It would be a really interesting if there was ever an appropriate format to have a kind of fireside chat on in this network with Juliet, maybe let's say, because she's amazingly opinionated. Her and her husband own the company, in the nicest possible way. She doesn't really give a toss what other people think.
that's brilliant. I
She's
love
never
it.
done a pitch. She's never done a profit and loss account for any book. She just decides whether she wants to buy something or not. And she's doing pretty well. She had three Booker Prize winners. Well, that is, and I imagine at least, or I know at least one of those three winners probably wouldn't have got published if she hadn't decided to publish it.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, no, they do have a really important role to play. But increasingly what you're getting is you're getting the big five who are kind of absorbing those kind of companies and making, having a kind of imprint that does that. And if you remember, Hachette set up an imprint, well, it's a whole division actually, run by a woman called Charmaine Lovegrove,
yeah,
and it was called Dialogue. That's right. And that worried me a little bit because it was almost like, well, if anybody challenged Hachette about diversity, they could just say,
yeah,
we set up Dialogue. And you think diversity isn't about having a separate room, it's about having a big room that everybody's in, isn't it?
yeah. And it's about bringing it through right
Yeah.
the way through everything. Absolutely. Yeah,
So yeah, and diversity is really about trying to find the most effective way of telling as many possible people wherever you are that stories come from everywhere, that if we want to continue to live in a culturally diverse environment, we need to hear stories from everywhere. We need
absolutely.
to make people feel that they don't have to be white, middle class, privately educated and live in London for their story to have a big platform.
Yeah,
So, we've seen this year, big publishers open regional offices where, that if people want to get into publishing and live in Birmingham, they can work in a big five office in Birmingham, and they can pay Birmingham rent rather than moving to London and doing all that. So yeah, I mean, is publishing in a good place? Yeah, I think it always is because it's just full of people who, are ultimately really optimistic and want to keep publishing books and finding new books. I mean, I used to joke when I remember having lunch with Charlie Redmayne, who was the then CEO of HarperCollins, and Kate Elton, who's the now CEO. And I think that's when I worked for the Americans, so I was probably a bit of a dick then. But I used to say things like, well, of course, Charlie, if HarperCollins didn't publish any books at all in the next year, would anyone notice? And and the point I was trying to make was, you know, nobody runs out of books. There are so many bloody books on there that actually, maybe wouldn't it be fun if this year we spent promoting all the books from last year that didn't quite hit the market they should have done?
yeah,
Because I
yeah. I
don't,
know.
if somebody's buying six books a year, well, I bet that maybe you just make, you give them another opportunity to make one of those six books the debut. But unfortunately, publishing, as we know, is unlike any other business in the world. We launch 30,000 unique products every year. I
Yeah,
mean, no other industry could do that. IKEA couldn't do that.
yeah, yeah,
The Ford Escort, whatever. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. So, which is why I think you've seen more and more this year. You've seen the big authors seem to be writing faster and faster. So, every time I think I know what the latest Richard Osman is, there's another one.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because clearly someone's thought, well, you know what? Well, let's make hay while the sun shines. And, people who discover their new favorite author are like kids, aren't they? I used to go to the library on a Saturday, get my three books, read something, and then think, oh, Enid Blyton, brilliant. Has Enid Blyton written any other books? And I'd go back to the library and there'd be more and more and more. And it was
yeah,
brilliant.
yeah, which is great. Well, I think that's from an author's perspective, that's the benefit of well, staying with the game and then building backlist because then it begins to pay off because you have a canon of work. So everybody who comes in with a new book then will go back hopefully to the previous books.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so and actually longevity and staying in the game can be harder than breaking into it, can't it? So
Yeah, I
that's
think so.
so I think something that people need to try and making sure you keep up your game and you keep producing is something else to factor in. I think
Yeah.
when we're always here, particularly obviously focusing on that debut and what's how
Mm.
to break in and whatnot. But I'm always talking about making sure that you've got that second book underway because that keeping it going
Mm.
is all part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we've always, again, last night people asked the obvious question. It was a kind of masterclass, hilariously, in being an agent.
Well,
And
look, if you don't know about that now at this stage,
yeah, well, they'd had a quiz actually about what agents did during the day, and I've asked them to send it to me because I want to know how well I score, because I think it's probably really interesting just to know what they're being taught. But anyway, you had the typical question about, well, why can't authors just go directly to their publisher, or why can't they just go directly to their readers, which is obviously what Amazon have been trying to
yeah,
get people to do over the
yeah,
years. And you know, as you know, I had breakfast with a very successful author who's written 25 best-selling books and sold 6 million copies in the UK over 25 books over 25 years. And she happens to be someone who she really loves the details. She loves looking at her royalty statements and thinking, why am I not selling as many ebooks as I should be in Canada, or whatever it might be? I'm
yeah,
making this up.
yeah. Oh, we've lost your sound. Hang on, come back. Just went on to mute there. Whatever you pressed, unpress it. There we
But
go.
other authors hate all that and just want to put their fingers in their ears and go la 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 la, and they just want to write. So I think we are, as an agent, I'm looking at publishing. I'm thinking it's still a bit amateur, but
Yeah,
maybe it's all the better for it. I mean,
yeah.
maybe if you
If
try
it
and
was too
explain
slick.
publishing to anyone who's not in publishing, they don't understand it, do they?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, they really don't. And then when
It
you try to
sounds
explain,
insane. What do you mean? What? A book's on the shelves for how many days at Smith's before it's sent back, or blah blah blah. And
I
it's
know.
it's kind of utterly. But there was an American publishing company years ago called something ridiculous like 11, and the idea was they publish 11 books a year, and that was it. So every month they'd have 100% of their energy into one single book. And I think they had a really successful first year. Um, and then the second year, I think the wheels began to fall off because
Well, then what do you do? Are you republishing the same 11 authors or are you bringing in new ones? There's a bit of a,
you're absolutely right, because
they didn't think that one through.
in year nine, you should be called 99 at that point, shouldn't
Well,
you?
absolutely. Because what do you do with yeah,
Yeah, but I think what happened was, in the first year, clearly they bought a lot of flashy books because everybody wanted to be in the launch list. And then the second year, they were suddenly just out there with everybody else.
well,
And
it's,
I
yeah,
don't think
what's the
they quite
story?
found the right books that they needed.
Yeah.
And actually, yeah, I mean, when I talk to my business manager about what I do, she says, well, why don't you need to just represent more best-selling authors? And you go,
Well, that would be, they'll
look,
fancy
me,
that.
what a clever idea. Wow. Just like going, you need to be better
They
looking,
should,
or why don't you just have more hair? That would be good.
well, it's no, it's like, well, why shouldn't they should all win the Booker? You should just represent Booker Prize.
Yeah, actually, that's probably not the best way to go forward. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's so yeah, I think look, I've been doing it for that's a terrifying thought. Actually, I've never thought of it like this. I'm 60 years old next year, and I've been in publishing for 32 years. So I've been in publishing for more than half the time I've been alive. That's quite scary, isn't it? And how many more years am I going to do it for? Well, don't know. It's certainly not going to be until I'm 100, is it? But what? I'm still excited by the possibilities of everything, so that's good. But I am aware that it's not 59 years old. The market is more like my assistant's age, 27.
Yeah, it is, and it's
So
freshening.
how
Every
does
year is
one
new.
Yeah, so it's all look, it's really easy to get cynical about everything, isn't it? And if my biggest worry in life is, oh, my author didn't get shortlisted for a prize, well, you know what? I've just walked through Soho and there are people literally living in doorways.
Yeah,
Isn't
exactly.
isn't it good to have a problem like, my author didn't sell enough copies in, WH Smith Travel?
Yeah.
Really, it's not life-changing, is it, really? But so, you know, books are an area of cultural elitism. And I think maybe in the last few years it's lost a bit of that. While bookshops are more accessible places to go into. People like you go out to libraries. You give your time. You talk to everybody. It's not all about sitting on posh seats in a literary festival anymore. And you don't even need to own a bookshelf to read a book now. You can just download it onto your phone, can't you?
Absolutely. But I mean, I think that's the whole thing is that books aren't elitist anymore, that they've come, well, certainly going right back to 1935 when Alan Lane came up with the idea of the paperback and everybody thought it was the end of publishing, that they've
Yeah,
become much more accessible because you can read them on your phone, you can get them in different places. There's also whole tranches of stuff that we're not accessing, which is things like, Wattpad and all the anime, not anime, there's another word for it, Japanese stuff. Sam reads loads of it, which is like a lot of it's free on the internet, where kids, essentially teenagers, are publishing straight directly to their peers because and they're building these mammoth epic novels, and just they're sort of they're writing it and it's unfolding as it does, and they've got a fan base too. So I think there's lots of different ways that people can access reading, and the most important thing is that they're accessing reading in some sort of shape or form,
yeah,
um, which is interesting. Duncan here is saying he remembers there was a bookshop in Knightsbridge that was also a publishing house, and the object was they'd publish the books in the bookshop. Um, he thought that it might. But never thought it was a big success. Well, it's a bit tricky if you're only publishing. I don't think they'd only publish them in their own bookshop. They'd have to publish them in other places as well. Um, there have been a few bookshops that have taken up publishing, gone into sort of publishing, I think.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
Daunt's has an imprint,
yeah,
and that does. I think that's pretty well.
Can you hear me okay? Yep.
yeah, can do. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Lots of companies like Penguin.
Oh no, you've gone again. What did you do?
I mean, that Penguin had a bookshop, and Pan Macmillan had a bookshop at some point.
Yeah.
But I think what happened was people just endlessly came in and asked for books that were published by another company.
Yeah, exactly. They won the Booker Prize winner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
certainly in mainland Europe, there are German publishing houses that also run very successful bookshops that stock
Yeah,
a whole range of books.
and
And I
France too,
suppose they have to
Paris.
be, yeah. And Lutyens and Rubinstein, who are a very successful agency, they set up a bookshop in Notting Hill, which was in on the ground floor, and they had their agency in the basement. And I
That's
always
fine.
thought that any of their authors would say, "Why isn't my book in the window?" But apparently, it worked very well, and they sold it to Waterstone, so it was a good investment.
So yeah, it went well. Yeah. So no, it's interesting. I think with any business, I think in some ways it's slightly, is it more flexible than some other businesses because there are many different ways into it and there are many different ways to market. And from that perspective, I think it's exciting because those challenges, we'll call them challenges, that you do face at every point, also can be opportunities. So, if somebody is looking at why they didn't sell in Waterstones or why they didn't sell in W. H. Smith Travel or
Mm,
why they didn't win an award, then you can say, well, okay, well, we can actually look at that and think about why, and then maybe change things around a bit because it's quite flexible from that perspective. It's not like you're making, I don't know, injection molded key rings, and you can only, to change the thing, you've got to go to China, and it's a whole big drama. I
yeah,
think it's much more flexible than that, which is quite interesting.
yeah.
Um,
I think when Bookouture set up, we were digital only, as
mm,
we've said this many, they would put a book up on sale, and after 5 days, their algorithm would say the pre-orders are about 12% lower than where they should be.
yeah,
And then they could go, well, maybe the cover's slightly wrong, or with the
yeah. Let's
text,
make it. It's green,
and
so
then they
the green's not working, so we'll make it blue. Yeah,
and then some guy would change it, upload it in the afternoon, and the next morning they'd be like, "Oh, that's good. The algorithm's back on track now."
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's terrifying. We think we make decisions without any, but actually, we make decisions because something is telling us to make that decision, don't we? Really?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I was just saying there was so much fear when Kindle came out that paperback, oops, can't get to the bottom of this comment, would die, but they coexist. Yeah, it's the same. But hang on, but it's going to be the same with AI. No, it's not. Don't worry about the coexisting. I don't think so. It's going to be, I think it's going to be AI books. AI books will always be there, but they're not going to be the same quality as
No.
real books.
But it's interesting. Waterstones are happy to stock AI books now,
Well, he said there was that
as long as
quote.
they're labeled to say that
Yeah, but
they've been written by AI.
there was a bit on the bottom of that quote the bookseller didn't put in the headline, which said something about once customers are asking for them. So I think so I think he was slightly misquoted because it sounded like they were happy to stock AI, but actually there was a bit more to it, which I thought was interesting. Because I don't think people are necessarily going to be asking for them, to be honest.
No, I mean, I think from certainly when I was at Frankfurt, a lot of, there's a lot of non-fiction which is being translated by AI, but they tend to be things like, a guidebook to how to get the best out of your iPhone, let's say,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
it's even like a travel book, which isn't a travel book with an opinion, it's a travel book with information.
Facts, yeah.
Um, Although I think, frankly, this day and age, I can't remember the last time I bought a travel book. I would download a city guide, which is obviously updated the whole time. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, look, I think AI is uh, we've there's no doubt we will find functions for it to perform which will allow us all to be more creative.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's great. I think AI is generally is has many very useful purposes, but in terms of actually publishing books, certainly publishing fiction is a whole different world. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that's a different thing.
I mean,
But
look, when printing came along, I'm sure people say, oh, Gutenberg printing that Bible, all Bibles should be handwritten and full of
yeah,
devotion of the monks. And you think, no, well, ultimately it became about democratization of access to spiritual text. Like everybody could read the Bible, couldn't they? So
yeah,
that was
yeah,
probably
that's
a
true.
good thing.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Um,
Maybe you're right, Adrian. I'm wrong. It does happen.
I mean, look, maybe by the end of this year, next year, there'll be a AI Sam Blake talking to an AI Simon Trewin with an AI Duncan, and we'll all be doing this, but actually none of us will exist.
Yeah, don't think
How
we'll get to
depressing
that
that would
stage.
be.
I don't think we'll get to that stage.
And
Um,
I was talking about Nicole. I don't know who
Yeah, because
Nicole
Nicole's
is,
her
but
daughter was telling me it's being used assistive a lot in labs. It is. It's enormously useful in labs. But that's an entirely different thing. So generative AI, which is producing the fiction works of fiction which are flooding Amazon at the moment, is absolutely completely different from the assistive AI, which is absolutely incredible. I mean, it's writing code, it's detecting cancers, it's
yeah,
doing enormously wonderful things, and it isn't and hugely useful for that. But it's completely different from the generative AI, which is what we're supposedly writing books with. But it was, yeah, no, it was interesting. Yes, the world is changing, but it's a good time to be. I think it's a good time, and change is always an interesting time to be around to see what's happening and see what people make of it.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, so that's good. So one of the other things we were going to talk about was short stories. What else do you have on here? Oh, but diversity in publishing. I think that's a really interesting thing. Do you know the diversity in publishing thing is about representation? Who was I talking? I was talking to somebody about that the other day, and about oh yeah, it was in a meeting about representation,
oh
and
yeah,
trying to make sure that if people can see themselves in books, people can see themselves in a board or whatever it might be, then it gives them something to aim for and gives them it creates opportunities in its own way. And I think that's really, really important. And yeah, so representation is key. And I think that's something that publishing isn't, it hasn't got to grips with yet, but hopefully it will, as you say, with
yeah,
dialogue.
yeah. I mean, I think if you want, I mean, certainly when I was little, there was a bookshop in Highgate Village in North London. You'd go in and a bell would ring, and this woman called Barbara, who was on the front desk, had those kind of glasses that were on a, kind of chain, and
Yeah.
they would kind of drop, and she'd look at you, and the look basically said, "I hope you're not coming in here to cause trouble." And then you'd go into the children's section in the back, and she'd come in, and quite clearly, if you were sitting there reading a book, just say it's not a library, and all of this, and it was a scary place to go. You felt like you were sitting in some kind of entrance exam,
Good
whereas
God.
bookshops don't have doors. You can go and have a hot chocolate and read books
Yeah,
and copy
exactly.
bits out for your homework, all that kind of thing. And actually, that's the beginning of diversity, isn't it? As soon as you get people into bookshops who felt culturally excluded from going into them, then
Yeah.
that's but then you have to have the people who work, if everybody looks like Barbara
Yeah, you have to keep
and
people working there. Yeah, and the books on the shelves then for them to
and
be able
you're
to pick
not
up.
a kind of white middle-aged woman with glass on a chain, you again feel like you're going into somewhere that isn't sort of you're not welcome because
Yeah, isn't for you.
you
Yeah.
know we all look for people. It's like when kids open children's books, you know they want to see kids who look a bit like them. Otherwise, they don't think the stories have any relationship to their lives, do they?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. So important.
So,
Um,
so if you recruit diverse people in publishing, they bring in their own stories from their own communities, don't they? But if
yeah.
everybody looks like me, then they don't.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, so no, definitely. The other thing you had on your list here was trends for 2026. Obviously, people aren't following trends, as we're always saying. It's really, really important for any newbies in the group who haven't heard us say this a million times already, because we do keep repeating it. Following trends is a disaster area for authors because it takes so long for you to write the book and then for it to get published that by the time you've done all of that, the trend will be well and truly over. So don't ever try and follow trend. You have to write the book. And I hear so many authors saying that they got their big break or something changed for them when they wrote the book that they wanted to write. They wrote the book that they want to read, that's their sort of book.
Yeah,
And which actually now I'm coming to think about it, was very interesting because when I was talking to James, who's my new editor the other day, he was saying, he actually said, what sort of book do you want to write? And actually, I think it's apart from you would have asked me that, but like it's the first time anybody else has said that, and that made me think about it a bit. Um, but
okay.
it's really interesting to say, I think, for people to think about what sort of book, what do they want to do? What's the book that they feel is missing off the shelf? What's special about, what's important about their story that makes it different, that makes it unique, that makes it something that only they could write. That's something you're always talking about, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
it is.
it's really
I mean,
important.
I thought what would be interesting for this section is that, you know, we can't. I mean, you're absolutely right. There's no point sitting here predicting the future. But actually, I think what we can do is we can go back to 12 months ago and look at an article I've got here in Elle magazine where they talked to 25 kind of influencers, people who, and they asked them to make their predictions for 2025. So we can actually measure that against what happened in 2025, can't we?
Oh yeah, God, did they say?
And I mean, I'm not going to read them all out, but I
No,
mean
no.
the headlines here are prediction number one was influencer dominance. Number two was diversifying platforms. Then there was genre remixes. There was rise of the indies. There was crossover fiction. I mean, these are all in a way, I think all of those things are probably things that you could say have happened in 2025. But,
Yeah, I think
you
they
know,
have the crossover and and a little
yeah,
bit of diversification, but certainly the crossover genre is something that it just I
yeah.
don't know if that was
And
this year, but has happened recently.
yeah, so I will send that list. And what I will also do is I will look out for this magazine's article about what the predictions are going to be for 2026, because
2026.
but there will be something in the bookseller coming up, won't there, where they ask, the heads of all the houses, what
Yeah,
do you
that's always
think
interesting. See what
the
they're looking
predictions
for.
are?
Yeah, folk horror
And
seemed to be something that was coming through this year. It's not my
say
area
again,
at all.
what was
Folk
it?
horror seemed to be something that people were talking about, and more
Okay.
horror, which is weird.
Yeah. I mean,
World.
I think I think what's interesting here is these predictions, the majority of the predictions that are right, I think are interesting, not for my mind about what the books are, but about how they're going to be marketed or sold and how the market's going to be receiving them. Like book top will remain dominant, but we'll be looking for diversified platforms and all of that. I mean, I don't know. To me, it feels like the market is dictated by younger people than it used to be.
Yeah, well, I think what it is I could be wrong, but I think younger people have money sooner. I don't know if it's because they're working or because they're getting, but they have, or maybe it's the influence power as opposed to buying power, but they definitely have a voice that they didn't have before. And I think that's possibly to do with social media because they have access and they have a voice. And, when we were little, nobody did. Do you know what I mean? You didn't start to have a voice until you were, coming out of university or going into university, and all of a sudden it was a student voice. And then that was the first time you were actually able to say anything about anything. Um, and make it and feel that you could influence events. Um, so I think that's interesting that things that people are younger and that their voice is being heard more now, and maybe that's a factor.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think probably, and I don't know about the economics of it, but I think the fact that the chat, the channels of communication, the way of speaking to our potential book buyers,
Mm.
readers. They are technology which is being developed by younger people, and you know, I love technology. Um, but I still have, there are still some things that I have to slightly study and get explained to me. Whereas the people who are actually creating the technology, which tends to be the kind of, the people in the space I'm here, the kind of app developers or whatever,
Mm.
they're now in control of the market. In control about how the market gets to hear about any cultural trends, aren't they?
Yeah, and they're sort of more switched on and they're faster so that they can do things really, really quickly. And I think that makes a difference. The fact that it takes us a bit longer, so it takes me now, starting to feel like a dinosaur, given that I was somebody who set up a website and used to know all about web and when social media started, was an early adopter and all the rest of it. Now I'm starting to feel like a dinosaur because the algorithms are changing and things are moving on. And I'm not actually interested in social media anymore. So I'm getting left
You're
behind.
not. Well, why are you not interested in it
Well, just
anymore?
because I just think it's turned into such a toxic environment and it's diversified across so many different platforms that to be really successful, it's a very different game from when even when Twitter first started. Um, that was a very different playing field. It was one place where people, not everybody was there to begin with, but people arrived, and when you got the hang of it quite early on, I got the hang of it quite quickly, and I definitely benefited enormously from Twitter, both financially and just connecting with people, and um, yeah, like it made a huge difference. So that was a fantastic opportunity which you were able to grasp and move forwards with. And but now there are so many different areas and different platforms. I don't think because they're all very new, they haven't sort of nuanced yet. I think when they settle in and we can start to see what, where people are and what the prevailing, I suppose, I don't know, prevailing wind is on those different platforms, that'll make a difference. But I'm not into social as much now at all. So
Right.
that's just me. I mean, that's just me. So it's not like not everybody, but they're definitely
Yeah.
definitely the younger ones that they're so adept at it and so switched on and quick to use all the different bits and pieces on the phones and all the rest of it. That every time a new thing comes along, it's like they get excited by it and they adopt it really, really fast. So I'm starting to feel personally like a dinosaur, but then at the same time, if you get to a point in life where you don't do everything yourself, you get the people who know how to do it for you. So that's quite
Yeah,
important too.
totally.
Making that,
Yeah.
there's no point me doing my accounts anymore. I used to do it when I was very small, but I'm rubbish at it. So now it's much bigger. Then that's time to bring in an accountant. So yeah, a tax advisor, which is what
Yeah. I
I
mean, you
need at the
wouldn't teach
moment.
yourself how to drive, would you, by going on YouTube?
No, well, exactly. So it's like, yeah, you need to know when to bring people in, don't you? And when and try not to and not. But I also think it's really important not to worry about it and for people to get anxious about the fact that they can't grasp it necessarily because there'll always be somebody who can do it for you, and or can help you with it and whatever it might be. And it is important in terms of I suppose communicating your message out to people, but there are lots of ways of doing that
Yeah.
without you being on TikTok, which is the big thing for authors, isn't it, at the moment? Everybody's like, well, you have to be on TikTok, but actually,
Yeah. The way you said TikTok, there was a tiny bit of kind of, you know,
yeah,
TikTok,
it's like, oh my God, I just,
but I mean, you do wonder, like when I started, authors who were fortunate enough to have a publisher, sat at home, wrote their books, went out for a little drinks party in the evening, and then got published. And every now and again, they may be asked to write an article for a magazine about their fabulous writing life, and they were given a month to write it. They went on an author tour, and you think the demands on an author now. I mean, I should think if you're the brand manager for Richard Osman at Penguin, for the last 3 months, you've had 5 emails a day saying, "Oh, hi, we're X magazine, and can we have Richard's top 10 Christmas gifts, or what does he
yeah,
want for?" It's endless, isn't it?
yeah, it is. But wouldn't it be lovely to have a brand manager? Yeah, I think the problem is it's
Yeah,
endless. It's endless as an individual that you get called up to. I had to go on the radio the other day to do a thing. There's a topical program that I do that's local, and I'm very careful about what I do because there's only certain things I can talk about. There's only certain things I'm even interested in talking about. Anyway, we were given the list and that was fine. And then when we went on, I went off into a different direction altogether about the infrastructure, Irish infrastructure plan, which I know nothing about. And actually, most of the things they got brought up, I have absolutely zero opinion on. So. Um, the kids that were listening and saying, "God, you sound like you didn't know what you were talking about." And I was like, "I didn't. There's
Is
no
that
point landing you
is
in
that is
there."
that what they said?
No, yeah, the kids did, but it's not. But I because I just batted them off to different in different directions. The questions I like. There's no point me talking about national infrastructure plan when I'm sitting next to a senator who's pushing the national infrastructure plan. So,
No, but
but no, so you end up doing
no,
all
there
sorts of
isn't.
things.
But yeah, but it's useful for the senator sitting next to you to realize that a lot of what they're doing, the general public don't need to get into the weeds about. They just want to know what effect it's going to have on their lives, and that's
Well,
about
exactly. That's what I thought.
how
I
to
thought
sell things, isn't it?
Well, exactly. I thought we were going to we were going on to talk about the M50, and I can talk a lot about the M50 because I spent a lot of time on it. But actually, it was also drainage. So, but anyways, it just is. You end up doing all sorts of things. I have to go on to News Talk now in a couple of weeks to talk about. I think some Irish author, the Irish author I think who has been most significant in 2025 or contributed most to the canon or something like that. And so you have to do loads of stuff, and it gets to a point where it can be quite bothersome because it's like, well, that's going to take me out of doing what I should be doing. And it is useful and it's all about profile building and all the rest of it. But it's sometimes you just do want to just sit down and write the book. It would just be lovely if we could just do that. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, but someone like Sally Rooney doesn't do social media, does she?
no, she doesn't. She doesn't do anything. Well, no, she doesn't. She just news articles every now and again. No, lots of people don't. Mick Herron doesn't do social media. So
He doesn't need to because if you put Mick Herron and Slow Horses into it, probably trends anyway. He doesn't need to do anything, does he? He can keep his powder dry, and every now and again he could do something, and it would go viral, wouldn't it?
absolutely, yeah. But I think it took slow horses for that to happen for him. So it's quite interesting that sometimes you need to be doing the work in order to get the break, and then you can perhaps take a
Yeah.
step back. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
look, I mean, I've been what I am watching All Her Fault, the Andrea Mara book, the TV version of that, and I think, you know, uh, I would never sit down and read that kind of book,
No,
but
unless you're forced to by
I
me. It's one of mine.
but watching that series, I'm now thinking, oh, hang on, I'm really it's a really interesting and it's a very interesting story, very well put together, isn't it?
Yeah,
In terms of narrative, it's a really interesting structure. So, I think anyone who thinks commercial fiction is kind of fast food, watch that or read that or whatever, and you realize it's way more technical and way more complicated than writing a slightly meditative literary novel, I think.
yeah. Well, I think so. I'd have to agree with you there. And I think that for me, it's about them bringing up that level so that even though it's still a good, easy read. As I've just started reading The Hunger Games. One of the kids told me it was like a modern classic, and actually, it's a really easy read, but it's multi-layered and there's loads of stuff happening in there. And so that's really interesting that something can feel like an easy, but actually, technically, it needs to be very, very correct and needs to have, lots of things happening in it. More so than say, yeah, potentially a literary novel.
But
But
yeah, so I think we
you
are,
can still write
yeah,
well and write commercial fiction.
yeah, and it's interesting. I think the challenge we have with TV's almost become like the publishing world, hasn't it? You go into a bookshop and you think, I don't know what to buy. You turn the television on, and think, I don't know what to watch. There is
Mm.
just so much, isn't there?
Yeah, too much.
But
But
then every time I turn on my television, it's telling me to watch All Her Fault. I mean, literally, that's just comes up the whole time.
I know.
And it's a bit like going into a bookshop where, it's on the front table, isn't it?
Yeah,
So, it's interesting how stuff rises up through the ether, doesn't it? Gets to
yeah,
the top.
yeah. No, it does. it's an interesting process. Yeah.
And Andrea very well. I mean, how many books has she written before All Her Fault?
So she wrote three before she moved to Transworld. I think she's done five with Transworld. I can't remember whether All Her Fault was her first Transworld. I think it might have been her first Transworld book. Um,
Okay.
I'm not sure. Was definitely first or second. So it was one of her early Transworld books. And what was really interesting is that it was picked up because it was a Sunday Times book of the month, and the guy who runs, I think, Peacock, was happened to buy this. It was really coincidental. Happened to buy the Sunday Times, doesn't normally. Saw it, read the pitchy bit about why it was good, and thought, "Oh, that sounds good." Went and bought the book, read the book, and literally it went straight to production. It was like that.
Okay.
So it was. I always think that path is very interesting because it's like she says herself. There's always a lot of luck. It's the right person reading the right thing at the right time.
Okay.
And that's very interesting. So yeah, it was just one of those crazy mad things. And now it's up for a Golden Globe. It's exciting. Lots of Golden
Yeah.
Globes,
Yeah.
not just one. So
Is that right? I didn't know
yeah, I
that.
think
Okay.
Sarah Snook's up for Best Actress, and the girl that plays the nanny is up for Best Supporting Actress.
The
And
nanny, that's a very small part though, isn't it?
yeah, the nanny that takes the child. I think it's that
Maybe
one.
don't, spoiler alert.
Yeah, no, that's the fundamental thing. They found that out very quickly in the first
Yeah.
program, don't they?
Yeah.
I think it's her. I think she's best. I think that's it. I need to check actually, but I know it's more than one.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, I've got 2 episodes to go,
oh God, I'm
and
dying to talk to you about it. So you have to go watch them.
yeah, well, I mean, it's impossible not to.
Yeah,
So,
good. Yeah,
I
and
do
then I
think the
can.
commercial breaks come a little bit too fast, but there we
I
go.
know that's the Americans for you, isn't it? So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it
no,
is.
it's very good. It's very good. Pacing is interesting.
Something I'm sure you'll be dealing with in other parts of the group, but I mean, um, don't send a book out now to agents because we're clearing our desks. We're not looking
Yeah,
for something to read under the tree.
yeah,
That's important, but also, yeah, I mean, it's just important to keep your creativity going through all the mince pies and endless visits over Christmas. I mean, just try and do a little bit of creativity every day, even if it's 20 words, it all mounts up, doesn't it?
yeah. It does absolutely. Or it's thinking about your story. Well, yeah, I don't think you can leave if you leave a story completely and come back to it, you will lose your flow and you'll lose your place. I remember somebody emailing me and she'd got a reader's report done, and then she came back and she said, "Oh yeah." She said, "I'm going on holiday, so I'll get back to it." Like, I think anyway, she was going on holiday and she wasn't taking her book with her. And I was just like absolutely gobsmacked because I was like, but you
Yeah,
don't,
yeah,
you don't do that. You like, if you're a writer, it stays with you the whole time. I mean, maybe she'd be thinking about it, but it was really very much like she was on holiday. She was cutting off from this project, like it was, I don't know, accounts or something. And
yeah,
I thought that was very interesting. So I think it's important, yeah, to keep the balls in the air so that you are moving forwards at whatever stage you're at.
yeah. I mean, I think most people, if they left their book behind and went on holiday, they'd end up cutting the holiday short, wouldn't they?
Well, I've just never, well, I've never, I write on holiday anyway, so I just couldn't do that. I just couldn't not, it's just something that's there the whole time. I might not actually be writing, I might not write for a couple of weeks. I'm not writing at the moment, but I'm thinking and creating ideas and thinking about what the edits are going to be coming in, landing on me very soon. And all those types of things. So it's there, it's constant, it's a constant presence. I think it needs to be. Because you never know, especially when you're thinking about it, the best ideas happen when you're away from the story and you're letting it sit, and that's when you start to make connections you didn't see before, and it suddenly
Okay.
occurs to you. You'll be running the bath, or I don't know, hanging the washing out. It'll suddenly occur to you that X and Y actually knew each other when they were in school, and that'll change the whole complexion of the story. So it tends to be, or you'll suddenly think, I suddenly thought of a twist last night as I was brushing my teeth for the new book, which you've got the thing of, so I now need to go in and change that PDF yet again, to get a very last twist on it. And I think that, and sometimes when you get the very last twist, it changes the complexion of the book, can change the whole thing. So that's why, yeah, you have to think the whole time, be with it, don't you?
Yeah. Well, it's that whole thing about, the person who reads the book and says, "Oh, I've only got one note for the whole thing." Oh, that's great. So if you just take, it's 400-page book. If you just take the manuscript, cut it in half, and then put the second 200 pages are the first half of the book, and then the second, and you're just like, oh gosh, yeah, that's a brilliant idea. And sometimes it's that kind of thing, isn't it? You
Yeah,
just
it
don't
can be
know.
literally, you can move something and it can change the whole story, or it can, and I think the most important thing is to be flexible for that and be open to it. because the whole thing about creativity is it is this, it's like one of those, you know, when you see those things on the television that are like balls and they're like moving, they're like bubbles, but they're sort of amorphous, so they're changing shape.
Okay.
I'm not explaining that very well. It might
What,
not
like
be.
chemical thing, like
Yeah,
cells kind of
yeah, like it's
bifurcating
growing
or
and
whatever.
it's shrinking and it's
Yeah.
moving in different directions.
Yeah.
I suppose like a blob of water that if you put it under a microscope,
Yeah.
it does lots of
Yeah.
things. And that's really what a book is. It's going to grow, it's going to stretch, it needs to be able to do that. And you need to be open to that happening because if you're too inflexible and you're just like, well, this is the way it is and this is the way it's going to stay, it's never going to grow. And the whole thing about a great idea is it needs to grow and it needs to develop to be an even better idea. And so I think being open and being flexible is really, really, even if it's scary because it's a lot of work sometimes to change things. So I think it's really important. Yeah, flexibility is really important. Duncan said something here, so I just sort of flash past. I'm see if I open it. So I have to close the top bit, and then that'll make it easier.
Duncan always has interesting things to say. What's he saying?
I just saying there are no coincidences, though I believe it's so true. Learned the hard way. Yeah, and something morphing. Sorry about Kevin. Oh, it's a long one. Hang on a minute. A proofreader visited Sweeney's pharmacy yesterday, and he said he was telling me about this person's book he had read, and there was an extremely important lesson to be learned. The person self-published, and it was self-edited, and if she'd taken the time to have it properly edited, it would have been a brilliant book. Unfortunately, it had now been on the shelves for several months. That does happen a lot. And Kevin said in the group he gave me an answer for what I'm working on now. It ended up with adding 2,000 words to his own piece. Yeah. So it's just, that's the thing. It needs to be,
Oh,
you just
brilliant.
need
Okay.
to be very flexible, don't you? And you need to be, every idea grows and grows in different directions or changes around. Like you say, sometimes it's a chapter and or two chapters or three chapters, and you need to take them out from where they are and move them somewhere completely different. And I've done that a lot different, you know, when you're structurally
Yeah.
editing something where you
Or
suddenly,
throw it away.
yeah, exactly. I remember what Joel's notes on Little Bones was like. I remember chapter 23 and chapter 26 need to be the same chapter. You need to merge those. And I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't, at that point, didn't even know that
Joel.
that was a thing. Do you remember Joel Richardson when he
Oh yeah.
edited Little Bones? And
Yeah. Wonder where he is now. I should know that, but there we go.
he's in, I saw him at Harrogate. He's in, oh
Penguin.
God, Michael Joseph or John Murray. I always get the
Oh, is
two
he
mixed
still
up.
there? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, wherever he is. And Catherine, his wife, Catherine Towsick has been promoted in Bookouture, something amazing, head of something international. But no, very well. He's good. He's, yeah, doing very well. Is it Michael Joseph or John Murray? I think it's Michael Joseph.
Michael Joseph. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Part of Penguin
And
anyway. Yeah.
yeah, he's very well. And so yeah, so when he said put these two chapters together, I'd never thought that was the thing you could do. Like, there you go. You learn something new every day. But I do it a lot now, moving
You
stuff
do?
around, you know, the
Yeah.
pacing
I
and
mean,
all sorts of things.
yeah. I've quite a few events over the last few years, and I've told the same story probably 1,000 times. And actually, it's quite good now, some of these stories, because I've learned how to pace it. I've swapped things around. And actually, you know, a book, don't accept your first version. I think there's
Yeah,
always some way you can make it better, isn't there?
absolutely. It can keep growing. It can keep growing all the time. But I think it's the key is having the flexibility of attitude and being open to the fact that it can change and can develop. Because I
Yeah.
think we can get quite rigid and certainly when we're starting out, I remember I would have been that, you know, this is the story and this is where the story, and it'll grow, the story will grow creatively, but there's not that same approach to disassembling it and reassembling it potentially, or, you know, taking a character
Yeah.
out or doing something really radical. Um,
Yeah.
that could make a change. You know, or
Yeah.
adding a
Don't be
character
afraid
in.
to cut stuff. Yeah.
That absolutely, I think that's really, really important because that's the problem is because you spend so long bleeding over the page to write the thing in the first place, and it
Yeah.
feels like it's taken so long. It's a really brave decision to need to cut something. I was talking to
Okay.
somebody the other day actually, and yeah, an author who you know who said that he's binned his entire 30 or 40,000 words of the book that he was writing, and he started again on something else, and he's really excited about the something else. And it's a way better idea, and it's going to be, I think, really good. And I think if you're excited about something, then that's fantastic. So I suppose it's also accepting the fact that the thing that you're writing might not be the final thing, that you might need to. I think you grow. Like I couldn't have written Little Bones if I hadn't written the 5 books before it, additional 4 books before it. So, you
Okay.
have to sort of grow you grow and you develop and letting go of stuff and moving on to the next shiny idea can be a really good thing too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. That's
Mm,
good.
yeah.
Gosh, we're almost there, aren't we?
We're almost there.
Yeah.
Our hour's almost up. So Duncan, or anybody out there, if anybody has any questions, now is your time, Sharon. If you want to ask any questions, do
And I'm
ask.
guessing the group is kind of continuing, prompts and whatever is was continuing a bit through Christmas, is it?
We are
How's it
indeed, and we've
working?
got a submission clinic on the 18th, so you'll be back again on the 18th.
I will.
I
Yeah.
have just booked Dave Rudd for January to come and talk to us. I was looking for an author for December, but everybody's up to their eyes as well. So I'm still looking. I might still find somebody. We're only halfway through. So
Sorry, who have you got coming in January? Who have you
Dave
got coming for
Rudden,
January?
Dave
Oh,
Rudden's coming
Dave.
in.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Now, Isa's just saying Block 44 needs a complete change about to bring it to market, to marketable stage with own voice issues, and it's still boggling her. Yeah, she's got her lead character is African American and her protagonist, and that's the tricky bit. But I think just it might need a bit of tweaking from that perspective. It's set in the 60s in America. It's a brilliant, brilliant story, and it's a great idea, but it might need a bit of tweaking. I think that's the thing about the flexibility, because the voice came to her as Morgan Freeman in her head. Literally, that's what she could hear, and so you're certainly all the way through the writing. She's very much wedded to that African American voice, and letting that go is the hard bit, isn't it? And seeing where to take it potentially, because I think it's
Yeah.
something that might be tricky for today's
Oh,
publishing.
100%. Yeah. But I mean, I hadn't realised but I hadn't realised that All Her Fault was written and set in Dublin, and it's now set in,
Chicago.
fabulously wealthy people in Chicago. Yeah.
And guess
So
what? It was filmed in Australia.
was it?
Yeah, yeah. It
I
filmed in
didn't know
Victoria
that.
in Australia, Melbourne, and I've got a great quote. It brought 80,000 jobs or something, or like it was just a phenomenal amount of money into the area. Her husband put it onto LinkedIn, and I got it out of there for one of my introductions when I was interviewing her, and just the amount of but it was filmed on. So she went to Australia to see the filming and everything.
So, but obviously they had some kind of stock footage of Chicago, didn't they? I
Yeah,
mean,
because there's some bits that are
streets and
Chicago.
whatever.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to recognize Chicago now, but clearly
No.
there are some bits that
All
are.
those bridges were fascinating, though. I didn't realize that. They were kind of walking around, and it looked beautiful, didn't it, Chicago?
Yeah, no, it's great. It's fantastic. It's great.
Given the fact it wasn't in Chicago, but there we go.
Exactly. It's that magnificent house. That was So it just shows
Well,
you can move stuff.
yeah. And I'm
Um,
guessing that, the light was probably more consistent there. I have no idea why
yeah, I say it's
they
probably might
filmed
be
it there, but
tax. It's probably a tax. That's why everybody
oh yeah,
films everything here,
really.
because of tax. Because I think the tax thing's changed a bit now, but it used to be like the tax on but filming here was mad. So everybody came to film everything. So because it was much cheaper place to film something than some other places. So
Yeah, there was used to be kind of tax rebates, I think, for some
yeah, I don't even
countries.
know, but yeah, tax isn't my area of expertise, but definitely was
Uh,
in their interest to do that. They're still
no, I
filming
mean, there
Vikings here down the
used to be
road.
a time if you filmed in, I don't know, Budapest or Eastern Europe, they'd say, for every dollar you spend locally, we'll give you we'll rebate the tax on it. So you could basically spend $10 million in Budapest on crew and set and blah, 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 and then they'd give you a cash rebate of, another 2.5 million. So, it's
Yeah.
pretty good. Pretty good way
Well,
of doing
yeah,
things.
exactly. Great way of doing things. So, so that's all good. Right, I think our time is up, and we
Okay,
will
very
see
good.
you. We will see you at the submission clinic. If you want, can you hang on for a minute, or are you flying off?
I can't, but I can talk to you in a bit, but not right now. I've got
Okay,
to
cool,
run and do something, but yeah.
cool,
And I'm really
excellent.
cold
Okay,
actually as well, because I'm in
yeah,
the
I say you must
garden.
be freezing. So,
I
thanks
am.
everybody for joining
Okay,
us, and thanks
nice
for
to talk
everybody,
to you all.
anybody who's watching back, and we will see Simon very, very soon. I'll turn off the
Okay,
recording.
bye.
Bye.